Are you tired of the price of the Benchmade Bugout going up? Nothing's changed besides the price. The same blade material, S30V, the same gribery handles, the same axis lock with the Omega springs. Everything is the same, but the price is going up. I think there's gotta be something we gotta change. I've got 3 knives that could replace the Benchmade Bugout with a few honorable mentions. Welcome to Barbarian Bar. My name is Mike. Let's talk about these 3 knives right now. The Benchmade Bugout is probably like my knife, I could say, sucked me into the EDC community. It's honestly a really nice knife. It's got some flaws, but it's got more pluses than minuses. I love the size, I love the shape. I'm a huge fan of the axis lock, keeping the fingers out of harm's way. I can hand this to a friend, can hand this to somebody who knows knives and somebody who doesn't know knives, and feel comfortable with both of them being able to use this knife without harming themselves, I guess you could say. It's a knife that anybody can open up. You can use 2 hands to open and close it. Keeps those fingers out of harm's way. You know, of course, it's got the options. You can spidey flick it or front flip it. You can thumb flick it. You can even use the lock as an opener. Do I suggest doing that? Not necessarily, but in all around, it is a great knife, but with some flaws, one being the price. Well, it's a USA made knife, S30V steel. Are there better materials out there? Yes. So that brings me to the point of upgrading your Benchmade Bugout. Maybe you want to upgrade to some Flytanium scales. These are from House of Blades. They are titanium. They're not going to flex by no means like the gribery does. That flexes. Same blade material, of course, but you got a little more bougie feel. So this is the knife I'm going to maybe take with me going out, or, you know, maybe you want to show off or flex a little bit. And this is one, you know, maybe wearing sweatpants or basketball shorts. If you're like me, since 2020, everybody's been home more often. You know, we don't wear our jeans all day. I'm the first to admit that, I'll be honest with you. So a lightweight knife comes in handy. Although this titanium is not that heavy, this is actually decently light for what it is. Well, now we're talking about swapping scales. So now this knife went from $170 to well over $200. Is it worth it? Maybe. So first on the list is the Hog DECA. Very similar in price, but you're upgrading the blade steel. This is CPN Magna Cut. This current model that you're seeing here, of course, is a different blade shape. This is the Wharncliffe or reverse Tonto, however you want to call it. The size, the lock is very similar. Of course, on the Benchmade Bugout, you're getting the axis lock, and on the Hog DECA, you're getting the able lock. Very similar. One thing about this one, of course, you're looking at scales. This is a collaboration with Original Goat Scales and bladebinge.com. So you're not actually looking at the scales that this comes with. But I do have the original scales to compare them with the Benchmade Bugout. So on the bottom here is the DECA, and then the top here is the Benchmade Bugout. Very similar in size. You cannot tell me that they're not very similar. And a little bit more of a finger spot, finger choil. And I guess it's not a blade, so you don't call that choil. But a little bit different than the Bugout. They both flex the exact same. They're the exact same weight. Both have lanyard holes. So you're comparing apples to apples, in my opinion. A USA made knife versus a USA made knife, but you're getting a premium blade steel. You can, of course, get the DECA in a very similar blade shape. So let's just say I had that one. You're comparing apples to apples. At the end of the day, these are both about the same. Obviously, upgrade aluminum, upgraded Flytanium. If I was to put these scales back on there, you know, you're really now talking apples to apples. And if you do want more on this particular knife, go ahead and check out my video on the Blade Binge exclusive with original goat scales. Check out that video and you can get more in depth about the DECA. One thing I think about the DECA I personally like more is the jimping. The jimping is on the handle on the Benchmade Bugout, not so much on the blade. When I hold a knife, I like to hold my thumb up closer on there. So the DECA itself has that jimping on the blade, which I personally like more. So I think that's giving points, of course, another points to the blade. Better blade material and the jimping that I like. And deep carry pocket clip. If you're looking for something that's like the Benchmade Bugout, just a different brand, USA made, Hog DECA is your knife for sure. So number 2 is the Vased Raccoon. So the Vased Raccoon is very similar to the Benchmade Bugout. You're looking at very similar blade shapes, very similar material as far as the scales go, but as you see, the Benchmade Bugout does flex a little bit, where the Vased has steel liners. You're not flexing those at all. This is the crossbar lock, same idea, keeping the fingers safe. The blade material is definitely lower end, but you're only paying about 60 bucks for this versus, 170. So you're saving over 110 bucks. A little bit thicker, of course, on the handle. You are getting a little bit more belly on the Vased, which when you think about the 14C28N steel, it's not as good as the S30V steel, but that kind of helps out with that big belly because you can sharpen this down and it'll probably be very similar, I guess you could say, as the Benchmade size would be. But you're looking, just comparing side to side, I mean, very similar. And also, of course, what I talked about on the Hog, you got jimping up on the blade. You can get in there. That's something I like more, of course. So points to that. Price is good. Another deep carry pocket clip. The lanyard hole. That's a win for me as well. If you're looking for something a little different than the yellow, don't worry, this is just my model. It comes in other colors. It does come in black and other colors. It also comes in micarta. This is the micarta Vased Raccoon. Very good feeling micarta, I guess you could say. I like the feel of that micarta. It is, in my hand, maybe it's just me, it feels a lot lighter as well. You still do have the steel liners inside there. Same everything. I am a fan of the Vased Raccoon, especially like I said, for like 60 bucks. We're comparing these two knives, but another difference would be the lock type. You can get the Vased Raccoon in a button lock and a top lock. So another safe lock, I guess you could say, keeping those fingers safe from that blade when it drops down. And if the Raccoon from Vased doesn't do the trick, then the other one is the Vased Corsair. This is a Nitro V blade, very similar to the blade shape as the Hog DECA, where you can get up there on that jimping. The Vased Corsair has the same jimping up there that I like. You can kind of choke up there and really use it. Similar shape, of course, though, as the Benchmade Bugout is. Same crossbar lock as the Axis. Very similar size. I'm honestly really kind of calling it, this is almost closer to the Hog as far as shape and size. So once again, very similar to the Benchmade Bugout. So being a Nitro V steel, you're getting a little bit more price increase of about 70 bucks. So you're not really breaking the bank of it as well. You're still saving 100 bucks. Yes, you're going to get this in micarta versus the Grizzly. So talking about the steel liners and the Vased, Benchmade does make the Grizzly Ridge. The Grizzly Ridge is honestly a solid selection if you want to stick with Benchmade, of course. A very similar shape, just a little bit bigger. I call it maybe the bigger brother because it's got steel liners. You're sticking with the same blade material, that S30V, but you're getting a much beefier knife with those steel liners, a little more grip in the hand as well. So this is definitely a more hunting knife, of course. The jimping is up here, so if you did want to do more particular cuts inside like a animal or however you want to use it, maybe you just want to use that a little more detailed cuts, you can do the pinch grip. You got the jimping on the blade, which I talked about again. You don't get that with the Benchmade Bugout. The Benchmade Bugout jimping is on the handle. So that is one thing that I think gets points. And like I said, this is a super, super nice knife. And what I like about this one is it just closes. This is actually more of a fidget knife for how good it is. It just works. I love the action of the Grizzly Ridge. If you are a fan of Benchmade and maybe you don't want to pay for the Benchmade tax, however you want to call it, or you don't want to upgrade it, these are almost the same weight. Wow. But go check out the Grizzly Ridge. You will not be disappointed. This is a very, very nice knife. I did have to upgrade the pocket clip to a deep carry pocket clip. And of course, you know me, I add on a lanyard to my knives. This is a hunting knife, so I always wear gloves with it, so it's easy to pull out of the Carhartt bibs or the pocket so I can reach it with the big gloves on. So hate the lanyard all you want, but it has purpose for sure. Let's go over the honorable mention. This is the CDC Crispy Donut Community Hansen. This comes in many different models. I've got it in the regular donut flavor, and also I have one in the Stormtrooper version. This though is a liner lock version. It is a flipper and thumb stud option. The liner lock is, you know, a great option for budget. Another priced knife at 60 bucks, and if you use my code Barbarian at House of Blades, you can get 10% off. This is in D2 steel, so you're looking at a lower end, but one of my favorite steels between D2 and the 14C28N, both absolute monster budget steels in my opinion. The Hansen, like I said, is a great knife, and it's so close to the Benchmade Bugout in size, which is why it's a honorable mention. What I like about this versus the Bugout is the Hansen's got a flipper tab. I'm a fan of the flipper tab, but you also get thumb studs. And once again, jimping. Jimping to me is kind of a big deal. I don't know why I think so, but the jimping on the back, you got the same as the Benchmade Bugout, right on the handle, and you got jimping right up on the actual blade again. You even get some jimping in the back here. Honorable mention, like I said, the CDC Hansen. I've got one more honorable mention, which is the CDC Outbreak in Magnica steel, in titanium scales, and a frame lock, which I like more than the liner lock. If you want to check that one out, check out this video right here and check out the Outbreak from Crispy Donut Community. Everybody take it easy and make sure your coffee is stronger than your toddler.